Philadelphia Eagles will enter the NFC Championship game just coming off a statement win and possibly their best performance of the entire season in their divisional round win over the New York Giants. They enter this NFC Championship game with aspirations of going to Super Bowl 57 and accomplishing the one goal they set out to do at the beginning of this season, but one team still stands in their way, and that team is the San Francisco 49ers. And with great offensive weapons and the #1 defense in the NFL, some may say the Philadelphia Eagles have met their match in the San Francisco 49ers. But ultimately, I don't think anybody can stop the Philadelphia Eagles as long as they do certain things and they play a certain way, and that includes the San Francisco 49ers. We're going to talk about all those things in this video, but before we do, make sure you subscribe to the channel for more consistent Philadelphia Eagles content. You're not going to want to miss any of it, so go subscribe. With that being said, let's get into the video. So let's start off by going back to last week and looking at the Eagles' win over the Giants in the divisional round. So heading into the week, there was a lot of people buying into the Giants' hype. The Giants were just coming off a very impressive playoff upset over the Minnesota Vikings, where they're playing some of their best football, if not their best football of the entire season. Daniel Jones probably had the most impressive performance of his entire career versus the Vikings. Saquon Barkley was playing well, and that Giants defense was also playing some of their best football of the entire season. And then on the flip side for the Eagles, there were definitely a lot of doubts heading into this divisional round matchup versus the Giants. The Eagles had struggled coming down the stretch of the regular season. They did not look like the same football team that they looked like for the first 15 or so games of the regular season that was just dominating everybody and putting up a lot of points and dominating on the defensive side of the ball. But injuries really hampered the Eagles coming down the stretch, and they just did not look like the same team. So there were definitely a lot of people picking the Giants to upset the Eagles in this game and advance to the NFC Championship game. But it's safe to say the Philadelphia Eagles shut everybody up with an extremely dominant performance over the New York Giants, where they ended up winning 38-7. And this was just a dominant win on both sides of the ball for the Philadelphia Eagles. On offense, the Eagles were able to be very effective running the ball, having multiple effective rushers in this game, including Kenny Gainwell, Miles Sanders, and even Jalen Hurts. And Jalen Hurts looked like he was back to his old self before the injury. He looked, if not fully healthy, almost 100% healthy, and he was able to make plays on the ground and through the air, and he was a huge difference maker in this one for the Eagles. And then on the defensive side of the ball, the Philadelphia Eagles defense was able to shut down the Giants running game for the most part in Saquon Barkley. He did break one big run, but for the most part, the Eagles were able to hold their run game in check, and they were able to also suffocate Daniel Jones in the pocket. They were consistently getting pressure on Daniel Jones and not really allowing anything easy and forcing him into making very tough decisions. It was just an overall dominant win from start to finish for the Eagles. They got a big lead and then they never looked back. And with the win, the Eagles were able to advance to their first NFC Championship game since their Super Bowl run in 2017-18. And now they have a chance to advance to Super Bowl 57, and they have a chance to do this on their home field. But they still have one team standing in their way, and that team is the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers hype is real right now. They have an extremely talented roster. They're playing some great football, having won their last 12 games. Their defense is extremely dominant. It's #1 in the league overall, being #1 in yards allowed per game and points allowed per game during the regular season. They were able to limit offenses with a great rushing defense, and they were also able to keep teams out of the end zone. Just an overall fantastic defense. And then on the offensive side of the ball, they have some great weapons. They got Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Aiyuk, and then of course the big story when it comes to the San Francisco 49ers this season, potentially the biggest story during the course of the NFL season so far, is Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant himself, the last pick in the draft. A rookie third-string quarterback comes in after 2 injuries to the team's previous starting quarterbacks, and he has been the best of the 3. And he hasn't lost a game yet for the 49ers. He has been great, and he's probably one of the best Cinderella stories in recent memory in the NFL. He's obviously been much better than people expected him to be, and he's probably played himself into being the 49ers quarterback of the future. The Niners are without a doubt the Eagles' biggest challenge yet. There's a lot of people that think the Niners are going to give the Eagles a lot of trouble, and there's actually plenty of people who give the 49ers the edge to win this NFC Championship game matchup versus the Eagles, even with the game being in Philadelphia. I just posted a TikTok recently. I have a lot of people in the comments saying the Niners are going to win this game, so you can go check me out over on TikTok if you want. I'll put a link in the description. But while I understand why people would give the Niners the edge in this game, I don't necessarily agree with that at all. I actually think the Eagles have the edge for multiple reasons. You may just say, oh, he's just a Philly fan, he's just being a homer, he's just supporting his team. No, listen to these reasons that I have and then make your opinion based on that. #1, I think the Eagles have the more talented roster all around, although I do think it's very close. I think the Eagles have the edge in multiple key areas. Number one, offensively, I think the Eagles have the better quarterback. Jalen Hurts has proven to be one of the best quarterbacks in the entire league so far this season, and while Brock Purdy has been good, I think Jalen Hurts definitely has the edge in that regard. I think the receiving core of the Philadelphia Eagles is better, with A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith potentially the best wide receiver duo in the entire NFL, and they also have an elite tight end in Dallas Goedert. And while the Niners also do have a very elite receiving core, I think the Eagles have the slight edge in that regard as well. And then overall running game, I think the Eagles have the best offensive line in the entire league. They have some very good running backs. Miles Sanders made his first Pro Bowl this season, and then I think Jalen Hurts also makes a big difference in the Eagles rushing game. So even though the Niners have Christian McCaffrey, they have a very good offensive line as well. I think the Eagles definitely have the edge in that regard. And then defensively, although I think the Niners do have a slight edge in terms of overall defense, I think the Eagles have the edge in multiple key areas. Number one, I think their pass rush is much better than the San Francisco 49ers. Although the Niners have a fantastic pass rush, the Eagles pass rush is historically good. They recorded 70 sacks as a team this season. They have 4 players over 10 sacks total for this season. They have the 3rd most sacks of any team in NFL history in a single season. And then in terms of their secondary, I also think their secondary is much better. They got guys back there including Darius Slay, James Bradberry, which I think is the best cornerback duo in the entire NFL. Then you got CJ Gardner-Johnson back there, one of the best safeties and ball hawks in the league as well, who's currently playing nickel with Avonte Maddox out, but he could also return for this game. He's a very good player as well. And then you have other players back there. I do think the Niners have a good secondary, but I think the Eagles secondary is much, much better. And I think ultimately all these things are going to make a difference in this matchup between the Eagles and the Niners. And ultimately, I think the Eagles are so talented that when they play a certain way, the only team that can stop them is themselves. And what I mean by that is this. We're going to talk about a couple key points here. I think on the defensive side of the ball, they just have to remain aggressive. We've seen at times this season the Philadelphia Eagles defense be dominant, not really allowing anything to the team's opposing offenses. There's been times when they've been able to shut down the opposing team's pass game, their run game. They've been able to stop them in the red zone. They've been able to take the football away. They've been able to get sacks at a high rate. They've been able to dominate in all these different areas and really not let anything up. And although the 49ers offense is an extremely talented offense, and I'm not saying the Eagles are going to come in here and completely stifle anything the Niners are going to try to do on the offensive side of the ball, I do think there's things the Eagles can do to limit them, and I think put them in the best possible position to win and slow down the Niners offense to the point where they're not putting up 40 points a game like we've seen for the past however many weeks of the regular season. And I think last week, if you look at what Dallas did versus the Niners offense, I think that could be a potential blueprint for what the Philadelphia Eagles can do, because the Eagles have just as much talent on the defensive side of the ball as the Cowboys do. And what the Cowboys were able to do was slow down the Niners offensive rushing attack with Christian McCaffrey and then force Brock Purdy to beat them with his arm. And although Brock Purdy has been good this season, he's been great in his opportunities, and he hasn't lost a game yet this season for the Niners, he is still a rookie quarterback. You can still make him make mistakes. You can still force him into tough decisions. And ultimately, if the Eagles defense is able to slow down Christian McCaffrey and the Niners rush offense, and then go attack Brock Purdy, put a lot of pressure on him like they were able to do with Daniel Jones last week and like they've been able to get on opposing quarterbacks all season, I think you can see them force Brock Purdy into some tough decisions and just slow down the flow and rhythm of that 49ers offense. And then on the offensive side of the ball, I think what you've seen a lot of the Philadelphia Eagles do all season is jump on opposing teams early. They've been able to go and score early on in the game and establish leads early. And then once that happens, the opposing teams aren't really able to ever get back in the game, and the Eagles kind of just run away with it, because what they're able to do is get this lead and then impose their will on the ground. Like I said, they have one of the best rushing attacks in the NFL. They have the best offensive line in the league, and I think Jalen Hurts is a big difference with that Philadelphia Eagles offensive rushing attack. And although the 49ers defense is great, although they have one of the best rushing defenses in the NFL, like I said, the Eagles' offensive line is different. They have 2 first-team All-Pros. The entire offensive line is either Pro Bowlers or Pro Bowl alternates, and then they have some great running backs, and then Jalen Hurts is a huge difference maker. His ability to make plays with his legs on design quarterback runs, RPOs, all that stuff, I think is going to be a big difference in this game. And I think the Eagles' offensive coaching staff also knows how to scheme these designed runs correctly and keep the opposing defense guessing on what's about to come. And I think you can find a way to neutralize the 49ers' stout rushing defense as long as they're able to continue doing what they've been doing all season in terms of fooling opposing defenses. But even if if the Niners are able to slow down the Eagles' rushing attack, they still have an extremely effective passing game, which is something they didn't really have last season, but now this season, they have an incredibly versatile offense. Jalen Hurts obviously developed in the offseason and became a great passer, and they obviously added A.J. Brown in the offseason, all this stuff. They have some great offensive weapons, A.J. Brown, DeVonta Smith, Dallas Goedert. They will be able to pass the football effectively if they need to and beat you in specific key moments in certain spots. So I think ultimately the Eagles are going to be able to have success on offense. Even if the 49ers defense is the best in the league, I still think the Philadelphia Eagles will be able to put up a good amount of points on this Niners defense as long as they continue to do what they've been doing all season and they don't hurt themselves by turning the football over, which we haven't really seen them do this season that much of anyway. And then I think ultimately in this game, the big difference is going to be at the quarterback position. And overall, Jalen Hurts is just the better quarterback. Although Brock Purdy has been very good this season, he's been good in moments, and he's had success so far this year, Jalen Hurts is just the superior quarterback. He's had more experience in college in big games. He's had more NFL experience than Brock Purdy. And I think his versatility with being able to run the football effectively as well as also pass it very effectively is going to be a big difference maker in this game. And obviously the quarterback position is the most important position on the field. So I think this gives the Eagles a big edge in this game. And then obviously the game is also in Philadelphia. The Philadelphia Eagles have home field advantage. It's going to be crazy in the link having an NFC championship game with a chance to go to the Super Bowl just like it was back in 2018 versus the Minnesota Vikings. It's going to be just as crazy this time around, if not more so. So it is for all these reasons that I do think the Eagles have the edge in this game. But of course, my opinion is not 100% fact. Let me know your guys' opinions down in the comments below. And if you want more Philadelphia Eagles content, you can go check that out right here. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any more content coming up on this channel soon. If you like this video, you're going to like other videos in the future, so make sure you subscribe. Drop a like on this video to help push it out to other people. With that being said, that's pretty much all I got for this video. So thank y'all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.